Yeah, I think we can go ahead and get started now then.
All right, I see it's 7 o'clock. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian for November 5th, 2025. Staff help with a roll call, please.
Sure thing. All right. Proceed with a roll call here. We'll start with Chair Bill McConnell.
Present.
Present. Our Vice Chair, Yuman Lee.
Present.
Present. Our Commissioners, Tom Frazier.
Here.
Commissioners Richard Mixachek.
Present.
Commissioner Laura Belil.
Present.
Commissioner Cynthia Peterson.
Present.
Commissioner Harrison Batten.
Here.
And Trustee Nicholas Lentz.
Here.
All right. Looks like we are all here, sans our former Commissioner, John Sarver.
Thank you. Normally at this time we would have presentations. I believe we are without a presentation this evening.
That is correct.
So we'll move to all of these citizens addressing agenda items and non-agenda items, of which I can see none. And then comments from the public. And maybe as we get into the minutes, you guys can help me understand that discussion. Communications, don't see any. That takes us to approval of the agenda.
So that's where I
Move.
Moved by Commissioner Frazier,
A second.
seconded by Commissioner Lee. Any changes, additions, subtractions to the agenda?
I did move the comments from the public up a few notches, as you may have noticed there. I think it was during our last meeting, we did have a comment from the public, but I didn't want to have them sit through
Right.
all of our business before they had a chance. So just kind of impromptu moved that up last meeting and then officially did so for this one.
Thank you. Hearing no objections, the agenda is approved as presented. Takes us to approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Vice Chair Lee,
I'll second that.
Commissioner Mixachek. Any comments on the minutes of the October 1st, 2025 regular meeting?
I've got a few typo corrections and a few names to add. Those have
Is
been.
one of the typos Lake Park?
It was not, actually. So if that's one more for me. Oh, I see it there.
I've got it on page 4, the first full paragraph. Vice Chair Lee provided an update. Proposed prescribed burn at,
Park.
I believe Leg Park is next
Yep.
to it. That's here. Commissioner Frazier, you always got a couple up your sleeve.
I just gave Jack a few typos, mainly was my name, the spelling, as well as adding the last name from the Parks and Rec report. And I believe Richard, Commissioner, gave him that correction as well.
Super. Any other changes, additions, creative enhancements? Without objection, the minutes are approved as amended. And if you'll indulge, the East Lansing Meridian Water Sewer Authority is welcoming environmental groups to tour their facility. Yes, please.
Oh, yes.
Please
okay.
sign me up.
All right.
And I invite anybody else to come along. I've heard good things. I've never had the chance to do it. But if you want to know where you're flushing to, they're it.
Do we have a date scheduled for that?
We don't. I think we could try to find one.
Yeah, for a schedule for like a tour with them?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd be interested as well.
Okay.
I assume that they do business hours.
I would imagine.
Probably
yeah.
weekdays, but maybe you can poke around and find out.
Sure.
Thanks. Beyond that, new business, resolution of appreciation for Commissioner Sarver. Would anyone like to do the honor of reading the resolution of, and thank you very much, staff, for putting this together. Appreciate that. Typically, what we do is read into the public record the whereases and the be it further resolved. And I'm happy to do that, but anybody else who would like to is also welcome to take that. Whereas John Sarver began serving the interests of Meridian Township in 2014 And whereas during his 11-year tenure as Environmental Commissioner, Mr. Sarver has ably represented the interests of this Environmental Commission and the citizens of Meridian Township, serving as the Environmental Commission's energy team leader and liaison, while also serving on the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. And whereas Mr. Sarver worked tirelessly to advance and achieve the goals and objectives adopted by this commission and the Township Board, selflessly contributing valuable focus, perspective, insight, and energy. I get that, energy, I like that, to our most challenging efforts and subsequent accomplishments. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Environmental Commission, Charter Township, Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, wishes to publicly recognize, commend, and thank John Sarver for invaluable contributions to and impacts on the work of this commission and the quality of life in this community. The commission is grateful for your public service and wishes you well in your future pursuits. Be it further resolved that Township Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan hereby adopts this resolution of appreciation to Environmental Commissioner John Sarver as presented. Someone care to second that motion?
I will.
Commissioner Fraser, would anyone like to speak to the motion? Personally, I'm delighted to have had the opportunity to spend time on the Environmental Commission with John. He's has always been a voice of reason and thoughtful compassion and civility. And I appreciate his service.
I also like to add, I've only known John since the beginning of the year when I joined the commission, but all my interactions have been positive, and I've always been impressed with his breadth and depth of knowledge on issues relevant to this commission as well as the energy team. So I second the resolution heartily.
Just add that he will be missed. He has a wealth of information on topics of interest to this commission and this township, and we wish him well, but he will be missed on this commission.
I'd agree. 11 years of service is incredible, and volunteering that time is wonderful. So, sending the best of luck and best wishes to him, and we appreciate his service.
All right, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority vacant position to be filled. Jack, did you want to speak to that, or would you like me to give it a shot, or there it is, thank you.
Yeah.
Visual aids to my rescue.
Yeah, this is just our brief description from our township website. But the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority has its bodies composed by the state, and it has, a certain makeup that needs to be there in order for it to function properly. This includes an engineering representative, somebody representative from the law field as well as the financial field, and then the township manager sits on there, as well as a representative from the Planning Commission, Economic Development Corporation Commission, and the Environmental Commission. They currently have more than they need for quorum, so this vacancy is not urgent per se, but it's kind of understood that, somebody from this commission will sit in on those meetings. I asked for a little bit of a kind of a rundown on what that obligation would look like, and they, as far as I understand it, the BRA, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, does not meet regularly. They just meet whenever there's a new proposal for them to look at. I heard that they have met 8 times so far this year, so it sounds like they've maybe had a busier year this year. Meetings right now, I believe, are scheduled for the second Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is an interesting time. Might be difficult for people with full-time jobs to attend that. But it sounds like it's an interesting opportunity for anyone who would like to have a handle on the wheel for how the township evaluates and looks at brownfields. There's not a huge kind of technical know-how requirement for this. That's more or less handled by the engineer, the finance, and the law person on that authority, on that commission. So it's more looking for just your perspective on these things. There's not a lot of homework or, crazy technical questions they're going to be grilling you on. It's just going to be you kind of weighing in on some of these initiatives. So that's kind of how I understand it. As I do also understand it, it's a purely volunteer basis. So yeah, I think it's ideal for one of us to be able to do both of those roles. If we need to, if nobody here is interested, perhaps John's replacement may be interested, but in lieu of that, it would be, if anybody else is here would be interested in that opportunity, it's available right now. And I think that's kind of the broad strokes there. If anything to add there, Bill?
What the impression I've gotten is that the most technical thing is the tax increment financing mechanics. They're not necessarily intuitive for all of us, but once you get the basic principle, it's just a matter of rates and time periods. But the township created its own brownfield redevelopment authority a few years back in order to access more resources more directly without having to go through a more regional authority. And I think it's crucial that we have a connection there. For a while, for the longest time, Ned Jackson was serving in that role, and he understood the chemistry of all of the brownfield stuff, so it was kind of cool that he could help us understand that stuff. But like you say, you're not asked to chime in on the technical matters here. That's whether it makes sense for the township to do this particular project. Anyone who's got time on their calendar at 9 a.m. on Thursdays and is interested in this kind of an opportunity?
I included the kind of the description there in your kind of packet addenda there. So I'd just ask that you take some time to review that, look it over. We don't need to make a decision tonight by any means, but just something to consider going forwards there.
All right. Any questions for staff on all this?
Yeah, I got a question. I see on the sheet here that it appears that term is up in December of next year. Is that indeed the case, coinciding with John's term?
I believe a new member would start a new 3-year term. I think the description here states that the usual term is 3 years. So I would imagine that would reset with a new person on there. I guess I'm not completely sure. No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the way that my understanding that the township operates on those new appointments midterm.
I might have some interest if no one else is interested, although I will say that I'm generally out of state for the month of January, so if that's a problem, I want to divulge it ahead of time, but if no one else is interested, I might be interested in serving on that board.
Any other thoughts? Well, thank you for that expression of interest. We'll look into the term thing and you ponder that and keep this on our agenda for the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? What business are we trying to do? Hearing none, reports and announcements, and staff has provided us some information on climate sustainability funding.
Yeah.
Go.
Alrighty. So I think you'll see in your addenda there, I did a little look at kind of where our climate sustainability program started and kind of where it's at today. So the inception was back in 2024 with a provision of 30 grand there by the township board. This didn't have a specific focus or direction. This just had a general, let's try to tackle some of the environmental objectives of the township. So the first, say, $2,000 or so went into these gleaning kind of initiatives here, kind of supporting the gleaners over at the farmer's market, getting them set up with some required supplies to really get them off the ground. Another 3 grand or so went into our first round of wetland education signage. And then we just recently finished another round of that for similar price, targeting some of the missing parks there. This was in coordination with Emma Campbell of the Parks Department there, and I believe it was the same company that did the first wave of signs, did the second wave here. So this is the last official item that's been expensed out of that account, leaving us about 22 grand or so left. There was another proposal looks like it's been sitting there for some recycling center signage that I just kind of went ahead and included on this table because it looks very sensible and very affordable. So it looked like something that we would most likely fund. So considering that, the program has thus far spent about 8.5K and has about 21.5K left. So this is rolled over from 2024 into 2025, and then we'll continue to roll into 2026 until it's utilized. During those budgets, they did not decide to add or subtract to that in any way, so that's kind of what's left is what's there to use. So I think it's been kind of offered up to the commission in a few ways to maybe start brainstorming a few ideas for how to utilize this. And I've tried to compile a few of those together that we can kind of go over here. I'll try not to spend too much time on any one of them, but just maybe a quick overview. So a couple proposals. These have been ones that have been submitted previously that maybe haven't been addressed yet, as well as maybe a new one or two. The signage one is the last of the list from the previous recommendations. I left it on there just because I don't think it's done yet, but it's most likely going to be. And this one's just about trying to increase the kind of the workflow and the organization over there at the recycling center that's off to the southeast of Lake Lansing. Another idea is an update to the green space map. This is a plan that was put together, I think, in 2004, I think, so about 20 years ago. Shows the whole township and highlights all of the recreational and scenic areas. There's a goal to try to build this out a little further. Let me see if I can pull this up. And if this was looked at again and redeveloped, there'd be an idea to get it added to this kind of collective of other Michigan areas that have this green space plan fully developed. So I think we would be joining in on the Tri-County one here. And just kind of going into this, playing into a much bigger idea to try to get more and more of the state connected these ways. So there's a idea to try to get us a little more modernized, a little updated there. The estimate that I saw expected this to be well outside of the range of what's currently available inside of the climate sustainability funding, so that would only be used to make a dent into this. There's a few more details in here. Looks like, yeah. Overall, an idea to try to get this all kind of planned up, updated, and re-released to the public. Another notion I saw was an idea for an outdoor cafeteria at the farmer's market. This is there and then designed to tackle some of the waste that's generated there, mostly through people buying food items and then having to throw those things away there. I'm guilty of that myself. There's a certain bread vendor that makes pretty amazing jalapeno cheese bread that I get every time I go, and end up having to kind of throw away the waste products afterwards. So this would be an idea to kind of not only stock receptacles for people's waste products and composting, recycling products, but I think also to provide reusable utensils, dishes, forks, knives, that kind of thing for people to utilize there while they're enjoying their time, and then to return to the market for cleaning. So I don't think this one's been very fleshed out, but I think it's a cool idea, so I wanted to include it. I don't feel like this would be a very expensive initiative either. Those are the ones that I think had kind of more fleshed out proposals, I'll call them. A couple other ideas that were floating around were some other generic improvements to the recycling center, looking at going for some certifications on one of our public buildings, a updated bike plan for the township, which our planning department estimated would figure about 50 grand or so to put together. The bioswales at Marshall Park is one that we had talked about previously. As a kind of reminder, this is something I think we brought up in the May meeting, but there's some pretty extreme flooding that happens in this southeast corner of Columbia and Lake of Marshall Park here. We've actually got a few pictures from the residents here of kind of what this turns into during extreme rainfall events. So the township is already looking at trying to improve the drainage here, and we actually have a proposal from Spalding to Decker to go in and evaluate a lot of this. The current proposal is to improve the drainage, install some better ditches, more detention areas, some better routing to try to get the water to stop collecting and to get it over to Lake Lansing. However, and that's all using funding from the local road program, as this is a local road that needs work. However, Spalding to Decker gave us the option to do bioswales instead, and I'll just read their little synopsis here. This would utilize an ecological approach by creating an open drainage system that will help with water detention, plant absorption, plant transpiration, evaporation, with the intent of creating a long-term sustainable ecosystem. The intent to add a series of biodetention retention systems, bioswales, and open prairies to help disperse and reduce the impact of rainwater runoff, ponding along the road edges, and flooding conditions. This approach will reduce the negative drainage impacts on the residential housing within the neighborhood and the amount and frequency of ponding by carefully reshaping the road profile and notably working to put these bioswales in. They'd be able to do that with additional funding from, say, the climate sustainability plan there. I think the current plan would be to just do ditches and better drainage, but with the involvement of some of the climate sustainability funds, we could kind of embellish that a little more and create a more eco-sustainable kind of situation there. So this is getting a little ahead, but they do have a schedule here, and this is something that the Parks Commission was interested in. This just kind of loosely outlines their plan of attack, starting with just their basic surveys they do of the area. They do this for any road project. Then looking at hydraulic analysis, this would be studying the watershed and seeing kind of where it's worst and where they can best direct things. And then they'd be planning on doing kind of a public engagement phase where they would want to speak to the residents of the area as well as come here and speak to us. So I would like to arrange that for our December meeting to have these guys come in and give us a much more in-depth kind of presentation on what exactly they're thinking for this area. And all that going well, their construction would then be throughout 2026 there. So they've got some pricing for some of this. And I think, again, a lot of this is already kind of slated to come out of the local road program. So I think the addition of the climate sustainability funds would allow us to do the bioswales instead. So that would be one of my biggest questions to them would be how much extra, funding would we need in order to kind of meet that stretch goal, that bonus objective there. So that's kind of one more item in the works. The last one that I did see is an idea to do some native tree replantings. This is in the Carlton Street area. This is again southeast of Lake Lansing. There was a road project that came through here and basically had to rip up all these trees that with the red X's on them, if you can see. I'll try to get a little better picture. So over 25 trees had to be ripped up when this road work was done. And this area is very marshy, very wet. You can see the lake right next to it. Just north of that, on Hickory Island, there were a few more trees that were removed. And the residents in this area have noted that you can see here, the train tracks are right there, have noted that the noise pollution has gotten a lot worse since the removal of those trees. So we were proposing utilizing some of the climate sustainability funding to go back in and do native replantings in this area to not only help stabilize some of this banking, but also to create that noise pollution barrier against the railway here from the neighborhoods up to the north. So we worked with Emma Campbell a little bit and got a list of trees that would be suitable for this area. And I think we got an estimate, a very rough estimate from one of the contractors around here who told us on the high end it would look like something like 12.5 grand in order to do that. To be about 25 trees, I think was the idea. So those were a few kind of ideas that have been floating around for the utilization of the rest of that 21 grand or so. So that's kind of where we've been, where we're at, and kind of what we're looking at going forwards. I wanted to keep the floor open to any other suggestions, proposals, or ideas the Environmental Commission has. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Let's see how we want to chew on this. We've got a set of projects that staff feel might be amenable to this type of funding. Are there? Maybe we'll start with, do we think there are perhaps some other things that didn't make it onto the list that should be on the list?
Can I just ask a couple
Sure.
things real quick? So, one, I look back at the notes from when we were talking about the proposals for this, and there was one that was the food scrap composting. It was at about 2,500. What did that? Do you remember what happened to that one? Did that one get scrapped?
No, I think that was in here.
Was it in this list?
Yeah.
Because you say gleaning. Is that the same as?
No, I think it's still as a proposal. Yeah? Did I get that right?
No, I think
No, I don't think so.
I might have seen that one. And I thought I saw a note on it.
Oh, I saw it in minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
I
was,
can maybe address that somewhat too. Because, yeah, there was a food waste composting effort at the market, and the commission had approved 2,500 for that, and it was subsequently approved by the township board. So it probably should go on this list under the recycling center signage. My understanding is that from the deputy manager is some of those costs have been undertaken by the Parks Commission or the Parks Department. But one of the things that we added here to the recommendation was promotion of this effort to try to get more of the residents involved in food waste composting. And to my knowledge, that has not been done yet. So I guess before we go too far into the new projects, I'd like to make sure that that does get added to the list, or at least that promotion part gets implemented through some type of township mailing. Maybe it goes in with a tax bill or some other notice that's already going out anyway. But yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner Lee, because I noted that as well.
okay. And then I am going to be meeting with Emma because there was a couple of things in the wetland education proposal. So I was going to meet with Emma to see if you know, we still wanted to try to do those things, but it would be another, I think it was maybe another 1,500 or something roughly. I can't remember the exact number, but yeah. So there might be a little more for wetland education stuff that was in that original proposal.
Gotcha. Yeah, like Tom mentioned, I do know that I think some of the composting bins and composting bags that the township's providing are instead coming out of the Parks Department funding. So I think that's why they're not listed here.
Okay.
We did have a presentation about Bird City, if that's something we want to consider also. It seems like it would be a small,
Yeah, I think they were only asking for a couple $100, I think, for their application. That would
there is a
be,
renewal process each year, but that's something to consider as well, I guess, for considerations on the list.
absolutely.
I have a question actually about more of climate sustainability program funding, so the funding, more of the purpose. Was there a scope or purpose that was put in place when this funding came about in January 24?
Sure, there was. That was a function of the renewal of the climate sustainability plan, which originally was 2016, 2017, and then we did an update to it and realized that a lot of the things that were objectives that we listed, and we had dozens, they were all going to cost money. And the township treasurer at the time, Shane, convinced the board to invest in a tree planting effort as a goodwill measure, and that was so popular that the board then created an annual climate sustainability fund. Trustee Wazinski was instrumental in that. And I don't know that it's explicitly stated, but my understanding has always been that the purpose of those funds is to implement the objectives that are in the climate sustainability plan.
Thank you. That's exactly where I was headed, was should we focus these funds specifically back to those objectives to make sure that we are, you know, providing for meeting those objectives rather than things that perhaps could be outside of that scope. So that's just, if that would help us frame how we decide and decipher these funds.
I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, our climate sustainability plan is so all-encompassing that I'll bet all of these could fit in there somewhere. I can point to where we said we should build more bioswales when we can. So that's a that's an easy one. But update green space plan, yeah, that's in our master plan. Crying out loud, that we made that a priority. But I do think whatever we do, we should be guided by what is the objective that this will help achieve, and not and make that part of our discussion.
I would.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would also encourage you to think about, as a group, think about what areas might be addressed with other types of funding through the township. So, you know, going off of what the master plan has laid out, to achieve, you know, there might be other pots of money to address some of these things. So thinking as narrow a scope as possible because of that all-encompassing climate sustainability plan, you know, thinking about what can only this environmental commission do that maybe some other pots of funds do not have a real interaction with.
And when I look at the list, yeah, that matches. There wasn't a fund for wetland education until this. And that's another one that is absolutely clear in the climate sustainability plan. Yeah, do wetland education. So the ones that we're doing are ticking the boxes.
One other thing, this money was, according to this itemized list, budgeted or put in place at the beginning of 2024. Is there a end point at which it should be spent?
Trustee Lenz?
And
There's no plan to remove the funding from being available for projects. So, you know, if none of these fit the vision for this group, you know, that those funds will continue to exist.
But it's an annual allocation.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were.
Well, that was my other
Two-part
question, is, that was going to be my follow-up question, is that, this says January 1st, 2024, we're almost at the end of 2025. I don't see an additional amount at the beginning of 2025. Is there a
Correct.
recurring?
Yeah, and to my understanding is this was not intended for a renewal. This was 30,000 set aside for these projects, and you know, if it is brought forward to the board that this commission decides to spend down all of the remaining 21.5, you know, asking for more funding to accomplish future goals, I, you know, would encourage you to consider it, but as of now, it is not a recurring 30,000.
Tricky to ask for more when we got a big balance. So.
Yeah.
Right. But
spend it
I just
well.
wanted to know if that option is there, or if it's part of the reason it's not spent is because this is it, and they want to make sure it's spent wisely or something.
Yeah, I would encourage you to spend it wisely, and you know, as I indicated in my first comment, thinking about things that only you as the Environmental Commission will have a hand in would probably be a wise choice before asking the board as a whole to look to allocate more funds in the future. You know, we're talking about projects that might get done from local road funding, for instance, or something that's already a part of the master plan, which means that we will budget it anyway. You know, it might not be as compelling to allocate more funds in the future.
Yeah, I feel like those are good catch-alls in case we can't find a good way to utilize that funding, but I would prioritize any smaller, more acute projects that, you know, would have more of an impact than those.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, you know, one of the things I did before coming to the meeting, and just as a reminder to myself as well, was that we had started earlier in the year with the table that we created that had like all the, you know, objectives and stuff from the climate sustainability plan. And I think one of the things that was in there was like identifying if there were certain, you know, objectives that needed some funding to help push them forward, you know, or make more progress. And so, you know, we could go back and look at that, you know, table and see if we can come up with some ideas from there. Because I know I haven't done it, I looked at it in a while, so.
I have a question about this item, update the green space map. From your presentation and from what you've provided here, it seems like there's three big pieces. One is some new analysis of new data that was not available or things that have changed since 2004. One is some sort of public engagement component of what should a new map look like. And the other is a project website that would be used for that. And I'm wondering if there's a piece of that that is within our, more tightly within our realm. And from the glimpse that we had of the Walk Bike Info site, I think you were saying that we would be joining a tri-county tool that provides information to broader community members about the resources available. And that, if it's a matter of reformatting data that we've got so that it fits with a tri-county tool, that's one piece. If it's reanalyzing the wetlands in the township and deciding where the new priority conservation corridors are, that's another piece. We've tried in the past from a kind of volunteer amateur standpoint to see, well, how'd we do? If we take that priority conservation corridor map and we look at what of that is currently under some form of protection, it's pretty impressive. But we don't have a reliable map representation of that. Because they're old GIS files that sit on CDs. But as a way of saying, not necessarily we think something more should be done, but look at what we've done in the last 20, dang, we nailed it. And there's a couple of pieces that are still undone. What are we going to do about them? And so personally, that little piece of kind of technical expertise to say, well, how'd we do, is worth considering. I don't know what it would cost. I don't know whether it would be an in-house or a consultant. I guess that the consultants who did the original green space plan have readier access to those data than township staff do. And I think they're still in business, so they might be able to say, yeah, we'll merge this GIS layer with what we've got and show you where you've gotten to.
I think that'd be really good, because we had that little work group, that looked at that, and I mean, the plan looks pretty good to me, the first go around, and so it seems like it'd be worth just doing some analysis to see how have we done, because then that might help point us to what are the gaps that we might want to address in an update, so, because it seemed pretty comprehensive, so it may not need as much, updating.
Right.
As we think. I don't know, but yeah, because I think we talked about maybe staff doing it, but then it might not be practical.
Staff get busy.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think probably the same technical expertise that would do that would able to format for the walk bike info format, and we get both of those with one consultant.
Right.
Or an intern. Hire an intern. Farmers Market Cafeteria, you just described my role at my daughter's wedding this summer. 92 sets of silverware. It's a lovely thought. It'll never work, but I would love to see it tried. No, I'm just joking. The native tree replanting seems like one of those things that you would hope that there would be other sources of funding that would might be available for that, but
I had a question related to that. What other sources does the township have for precisely that native tree planting?
I would hazard a guess that perhaps local road funds could be used for that, since it's related to reconstruction in that area. That would be my first guess. I'd have to look into it a little further to see kind of what other options we might have to finance that.
In the area that was identified, particularly along Carlton Street, it looked like, at least from the aerial map that we saw, that is an area where bank stabilization could be pretty important. So I don't know if there are other ways to fund that kind of work, but it sounds to me like that could be a pretty important thing to try to accomplish.
And that might be the, like bank stabilization, the difference there might be if it's just the local road program, they might just do the typical kind of, I don't know, embankments, kind of sheet piles. Whereas with climate sustainability funding, we could maybe do like more of a natural shoreline, like we currently have a little bit demoed on Lake Lansing there, just to kind of hazard a guess of kind of how this funding could kind of leverage something into something more environmentally sustainable than the kind of the default approach.
yeah, to the degree that it's a very well, first of all, it's a park, right? Marshall Park. It's a township asset, so the educational aspect of installing a modern bioswale is valuable in and of itself. And if it addresses flooding issues as well, well, that seems easy. But you say you're not sure what the additional dollars for the bioswale.
Right, I'd be keen to learn what that incremental jump would look like to
Because
get
they do
us
some
from.
drainage, and then they do some rock, and then they do plantings on the bank, and stuff?
Yeah, I think the typical would just be a big ditch essentially that would collect water and would eventually drain. But the bioswales have the drainage tiles underneath them, the plants that are great at kind of capturing all that. Yeah. Try to treat the water on site as opposed to just collecting it and shuffling it off towards the lake.
Have the bioswales been implemented in other areas in Meridian Township?
There are some rain gardens on
Tower,
Tower, yep,
Commissioner.
and then Pollard Street, I want to say, which is close to the border East Lansing area. Those are the two I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, we did one at Lake Lansing South by the public boat launch there.
Oh, okay.
There was a ditch that needed work, and so we jazzed it up. Giannis jazzed it up. And I would, when the planning commission sees applications for development projects, it typically defers completely to the county drain commissioner who has the legal authority to manage that. And part of our plan is to encourage the drain commissioner to do a little bit more on those, like bank stabilization and bioswales for more filtration. And, you know, the applicants are rarely interested in, well, those drain projects get charged to everybody who benefits, so the entire drain district. And throwing a bunch of wild plants on there for an extra, how much on my property tax bill is a hard sell for them. But if we can do it as part of one of our road projects, then we're meeting our need without having to go that route.
The farmer's market cafeteria, is there a way to get a cost estimate for some of these things, or?
I could, yeah, start to put some feelers out on that, try to get an idea together.
Okay.
You know, now that I say that, it could be totally feasible. If one of the restaurants in the mall was willing to just roll those dishes back to their dish room and clean them up and send them back out. You know, commercial kitchens do that all day long.
Right.
There might even be an unused kitchen somewhere in the mall. We talked once about putting an anaerobic digester in the old Ruby Tuesday kitchen. Those were the days.
That'd be cool. Because it may be like even just having the bins, that part of it, might be something that's,
Would be, yeah, pretty feasible, I
easy
think.
to do. Yeah, the stuff about washing.
That's an extra, because then you're talking staff, you're talking.
Yeah.
It's,
It's a
yeah.
little challenging.
And we don't really have any, are we thinking of the township operating a cafeteria, or is this more of there's going to be some vendor that operates a cafeteria?
I think the idea was we'd be setting somebody up to do that. And this would be kind of helping to fund whatever stipend would be necessary for that. But that to me sounds like a bit more of a stretch than just at least setting up the proper receptacles for things.
Yeah, handling clean dishes gets you into a whole other area of health and human services that you don't want to really go into. And if it's vendors, we've thought about trying to encourage vendors to compostable, but they show up with what they show up with.
Right.
And trying to collect food from an eating venue, I can tell you, you will have more contamination in there than you want to deal with. You can't. What we currently have is people who are very dedicated, who are bringing their compost to the market and putting it in the compost bucket, right? And Hammond Farms can take a little bit but they don't tend to see much contamination in those. In a public space, no, you'll just get everything. You can't. So sorry to be such a wet blanket.
That's it.
I have faith in our township residents. I think they can sort this stuff.
Oh, good on you. See, I'm getting jaundiced. Any other comments, thoughts, questions on these proposals or any others? Do you have something to go with here? Some ideas about what next step?
I think so, yeah. Yep, I think I'll try to get the Spalding guys in for December to kind of do a better pitch on what they're thinking, and then try to get a few numbers or estimates on what the other projects might look like.
Thank you. Moving right along to liaisons, Township Board. I know the board's not met for like a couple months, right? You guys are all
Yeah,
on
that's
fall
typical
break.
how we work, yeah. No, it has actually been a relatively calm month since this group met. I will say that we do have a new township treasurer who's been appointed, Linda Burkhart. She comes to us with a wealth of nonprofit executive management as a background. Unfortunately, she shortly after starting had a health concern, so she is not currently in that office. But if anyone, of course, needs anything from township treasury staff, there are staff members still available. So property taxes will continue to be collected. So, but we're all really looking forward to having her on the board and working with her. And then the one thing I would like to point out as we look into the colder months of the year when a lack of utilities can sometimes be a real detrimental area. If you know anyone who is in need of housing services, the Ingham County housing millage that passed in 2024, Meridian Township received an $80,000 grant that is available for residents through, I don't know exactly when the application for that is open, but the idea is to help prevent eviction, maintain housing with rent payments and then utility payments as well. I know that's not directly tied to Environmental Commission, but would encourage you to look at that. And unlike the environmental dollars we were talking about, Cynthia, this does have a timeline of through September 30th of 27. So I'm not saying that money won't find a way to be allocated, because Meridian Cares does do an aggressive work with distribution. But if you know anyone in need, reach out to Meridian Township. And then one of the more interesting things I've seen on my year serving on the board was in our last board packet on the 21st, a land donation potentially that the township might accept, 4344 Hagedorn Road. The owner has 22.75 acres. They're looking to donate to the township by the end of the year. This is an incredibly marshy area. There's no world in which permanent buildings will be added to it. But as we at the board level discussed at our last meeting, I think there's a chance for pathways to be installed there, and then we can turn around and potentially donate it to the Drain Commission for drainage-related projects as well. We're currently undergoing a level 2 environmental site assessment, and I believe, considering it's not on my packet for tomorrow's meeting, I would imagine we'll hear about it in a couple weeks. But I think the fact that any landowner wants to donate to a township that has a history of environmental stewardship is a good thing, and we all chose to live in this swamp, so yeah, having wetlands available and for our natural environment, I think is all a good thing. But if anyone has any questions or opinions about that, please feel free to reach out. It should be a pretty cut and dry procedure as far as a tax benefit to the landowner. Township receives land that we can choose to do with as we will. But I would say that one of the exciting parts is the potential for that pathway would allow for continuing which is not in any way budgeted for right now, but should fill a gap in our pathway system that currently exists on Hagadorn in there. So that is what I have for Meridian Township Board activity. Again, with just election day yesterday, we didn't meet yesterday, so normally I might have more for you, but here we are. If anyone's interested, normal board meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. So.
Thank you. Any questions for Trustee Lynch? Hearing none, moving to the Planning Commission. The last couple of Planning Commission meetings have had a full house. Lots and lots of interest from the public in a proposal concerning the development of the property on the east side of Central Park Drive, across the road from Kohl's, across from Cancun, below Walmart. And you may recall that Central Park Estates is a single-family development that's accessed off of those roads going into the woods. And this is the parcels in between that single-family development and Central Park Drive. And it's been, there's a long history with that parcel that involves legal settlements that concern the zoning of the property. And the applicants are currently asking for a multifamily residential zoning to replace some commercial zoning that was part of that agreement. And most of the discussion has concerned the impact that multifamily housing would have on the adjoining single-family residential neighborhood in terms of traffic and other concerns with more people nearby. And the Planning Commission will at some point make a recommendation to the Township Board on whether to amend this agreement between the owner and the township to enable them to build something other than commercial on that property. You're familiar with this case. How did I do?
I think it's moving along. There's a lot of, as Bill indicated, a lot of interest from the members of the public, but the intersection of environmentalism and zoning is a fascinating world, and I would encourage anyone to watch just how long of a meeting Bill had a few weeks ago. So yeah. I didn't have anything to add, I should say.
I should, in full disclosure, mention that a lot of the public comment, the concerns of the neighbors, has to do with the destruction of wildlife habitat. And, the residents, like you would expect in any secondary woodland, see an awful lot of furry creatures. And my household had the first interaction with a deer the other day and put $3,000 worth of damage into our Subaru, but it didn't come through the windshield, so we're happy about that. But I'm kind of a wet blanket when I go back and look at the aerial photographs and tell people, it was farmed. Before the mall was built, that was all farmland. Thanks for your concern about environmental protection. We've got a land preserve program that's got the best bits. And we've protected by law some of the best bits. These folks own the property, they're going to build something. And in my view, what they have brought as a plan, it avoids all the wetlands on the site, and there's plenty. We live in a swamp. There's a little bit of encroachment into a buffer that would be mitigated. So I'm personally not opposed to the project, and I'm just hope that we can get people on and off the site safely if they're not in a motor vehicle. If y'all have any thoughts or concerns, I'd be happy to take those back to Planning Commission for our next discussion on it. I will say that when we get a lot of public comment, we use that little timer there. which is kind of a magical thing, but I'm always so impressed that we'll have 30 people give public comment, and none of them goes over. They get 3 minutes and they say thank you, and the thing doesn't even beep. Good. They're cogent, they're organized, and by and large civil. So,
Great.
if there's no questions, Land Preservation Advisory Board.
So I unfortunately was not able to make their last meeting, and our next meeting is next Wednesday, so I don't really have an update at this time.
That's okay. That's okay. I take it this donation that we're thinking about, would it become a preserve?
Potentially, that is not a part of what we are discussing here. I think that's one of the higher likelihood options. But again, I think after the ESA is completed and we know a bit more about potential propane leak, I believe it was. I'm not sure if you're familiar, Jack, but a propane tank leak from decades ago could become a nature preserve. It might make sense, depending on drainage projects, to offer it to that drainage office with a caveat that we would build that pathway when and if the budget makes sense to do that. I think those are the two most likely options, but considering it was just up for discussion without the full range of information from that ESA being completed, I think you can expect on the November 18th meeting to learn a bit more about what staff recommends and the rest of the board's feelings. So
Thank you.
I might fall into your docket.
I was wondering when you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I wasn't at the last meeting, but maybe next week, yeah.
All right, we'll have no Brownfield Redevelopment Authority report since we don't have a liaison present, but hopefully we'll have one soon. Parks Commission. Parks Commission up to.
So unfortunately, I was not able to attend their last meeting, which was October 14th. I will report back to this commission when I review the minutes, and that'll probably be after their next meeting, so I'll report back on two meetings there. I did want to point out, you had mentioned the Bird City USA proposal. That is one thing that I did want to bring up and hopefully initiate a little bit of discussion on, because I think Parks Commission involvement would be important if the township would decide to go ahead with that application.
Great. Questions? Teams, energy team. Did anybody attend the energy team meetings?
Yeah, I have been attending.
Yay!
And John actually asked me to fill in with him
Great.
to be energy team liaison to the Environmental Commission. So I will take that on from now going further. I was also happy to learn that even though John is stepping down from the Environmental Commission, he does have interest in continuing with the energy team. So we'll be hearing from him in that forum. So
And that's still largely virtual, yeah?
it's yes, they meet once a month on Thursdays. It's usually the third Thursday of the month, and it's a Zoom meeting, so it's a virtual meeting. Attended by actually a few people. Great Lakes Energy,
Absolutely.
the Absolute Solar always attends that, and then several other interested individuals. So at that last Zoom meeting, Rob Kirker, who is the CEO of Absolute Solar, just kind of reported back on the status of the Solarize programs. I think we've heard previously that the Solarize event that was held earlier this year in April recruited 13 clients to install residential solar on their properties, and then there was a follow-up Solarize event in July, which recruited another 7 members. So Absolute Solar is, and other installers are kind of hustling to try to get those installations completed by the end of the year. As we have heard and as we all know, the One Big Beautiful bill withdrew some of the important tax credits and incentives for solarization. The vehicle credit went away at the end of September. The residential solar or green energy improvement tax credit is going away at the end of the year. So any projects that are completed by the end of the year will be eligible for tax credit in 2025, filed through the return they file next April in 2026. It's not a tax credit, but a commercial tax deduction for commercial energy improvements will continue, I think, through June of 2026. So there's been kind of a shift in solar installation projects, or at least recruiting new projects from the residential area into the commercial area. And they'll continue to do that as long as that commercial deduction is available. It's only for another 8 or so months, so that won't last very long. So there was some discussion about, well, what's going to happen to solarization projects going forward, and the expectation is that there will be a significant loss in momentum due to that withdrawal of the federal incentive. But individuals continue to point out that it is a smart long-term investment. It will reduce energy costs going further. It's just a different cost calculation that people have to make. As we recall from our last Environmental Commission meeting, there was public comment about potential contamination related to either solar panels or solar installation projects. So that actually topic was discussed a little bit among the energy team members. The general consensus was it isn't a significant problem at this point for a couple of reasons. One is that solar panels, due to the manufacturing standards that are in place, essentially don't have an issue with leaking toxic chemicals or heavy metals, particularly in the case of residential solar installations, which are in general very small. It might be an issue with large solar farms, but there are no such large solar farms in Meridian Township, so that won't be an issue for the township to address. And the other thinking is that recent research in the current performance of solar panels is that they maintain pretty high efficiency, in other words, over 90% efficiency, 25 or 30 years into service. So the expectation is that replacement of solar panels is, and discarding old solar panels isn't going to be an issue for the immediate future. But there are discussions about what to do with solar panels in the future. The expectation is many of these will be upscaled or upcycled and repurposed for other less demanding applications. So again, not too much of an issue in thinking 25 to 30 years out. Technologies will improve. The market will probably become available for recycling projects in the future. So at least the members of the energy team didn't feel that it was an important thing for the township to address at this moment. Although if the township wants to think about an ordinance for responsible disposal of solar panels and other battery storage things that are related to green energy, then that's something that the discussions probably should start at some point. And that's it from the energy team.
Thank you. Thank you. Green team.
Green team, I actually missed the last
dare
green
you.
team meeting, so, but I believe the focus was primarily reviewing the electronics event in September, and then we'll be gearing up for the next calendar year for events in conjunction at the farmers market, and usually that starts in February or March. So we've got a couple of months here. We don't have any events planned, but I don't know if Commissioner Batten or Jack have anything to add to the green team report.
I agree. There was nothing else that was really significant, just fixing or mentioning little problems about the electronics recycling questions that we had a lot of from the public and various things. Nothing very exciting.
Found a couple bolts to tighten for the next one, a couple little things to do a little better, a little differently. But yeah, and then just started to loosely kind of brainstorm the future programming.
Yeah. And then thinking about the green events calendar for 2026.
Sorry, didn't realize you were there as well. Apparently, we're.
The green team's well covered here.
Thank you for that. Food composting, we talked about a little bit earlier. Do we know anything, is there anything we need to know? I believe the food rescue folks made a presentation to the board. So you got another tip at the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Green burial. I saw something on that in the minutes. There's some stuff going forward.
A little bit, yeah. The Green Burial Committee did present to the Township Board last month. My understanding there wasn't a lot of questions or interaction, but there was suggestion to work with the Public Works Department to move the concept forward. And there again, I would defer to Trustee Lentz if he had any more to add to that conversation.
I would say an area of township government that I was not expecting to learn so much about when I first started was cemeteries and burials. So I think the sustainability that the Green Burial team presents is a welcome welcome outlook for something that isn't necessarily very sustainable in its current format for most burials in America. So appreciate the opportunity to share that with the rest of the board.
Thanks. High school.
In comparison to September, it's been, I would say, a slightly lighter month, but we've been doing quite a lot still. The most significant thing was the Sustainability Club ran a can drive. So we collect all of our members and send them out to various neighborhoods to ask people if they have any cans to donate. And though it seems like such a small thing, just 10 cents for each can, it adds up and we end up getting hundreds each time we do it. And it's a good way for us to just interact with the public. The neighborhoods are all generally populated by Hazlitt kids, and so they get to learn about sustainability and what we're doing, and then we're going to donate the money to the Harris Nature Center.
Nice.
And it's a great opportunity for our members to get hours, which is always a thing that they like to do. It's a good incentive for things like National Honor Society. We had a district sustainability team meeting. I would say it went pretty well. It was at our Wilkshire Young Elementary School, and we toured their courtyard, and it's a place that lots of the other teachers and students in the district haven't seen in at least a while or ever. And we talked about, some of our main goals this year, what we want to do. Do you have anything to add?
No, other than that, the Wilkshire courtyard is an amazing place. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Wilkshire Elementary and tour their courtyard and see all the little things that they're doing in there, it is an amazing place. And Mrs. Merton, who's the kind of the lead teacher on that, is wonderful too. Like, if you ever get a chance, it was
amazing,
wonderful.
Yeah. She's a DK teacher at Wilkshire, and she's been doing it since I was in kindergarten, so a few years now, about 10. And it's a really interesting space. It's, the other ones in the district are like rectangles because they fit just right into the middle of the schools generally. But it like snakes around the whole building because Wiltshire is shaped in a fairly strange way, and it's the way they use the space is really just awesome, and it's very suited to those kids, which is amazing because sometimes in the discussions that we have, it's how do we like teach young kids about the world and the environment without, bogging it in, a whole bunch of words and things that they don't really care about. We don't want to make them sad because our world has problems, and so it's the ways that they've come up with introducing kids to that world is really amazing to me.
They have composting, they grow vegetables, they have little areas that have log seats under trees where they can do all kinds of things. They have an outdoor chalkboard, just all these little nooks and crannies. They have some native planted areas that it's just a wonderful place. If I was a kid at that school, I would want to be outside all the time. I'd be like, let's go outside and do some stuff. It's too fun. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So you're collecting deposit cans.
Yes,
Where do you take them?
just about anywhere. So 1 week we like pass out flyers and talk with the
Community.
yes, it's explaining what we're doing, and then we tell them, hey, next week between this time, if you set them out, someone will come around and collect them. And then certain cans and bottles have certain places that they need to be donated, right? And so we'll send some people to Costco to get rid of those cans, and then some people to Meijer, and it'll end up all working out. But generally it's Costco and Meijer and Kroger. Those are our main spots because they can take a majority of cans.
I may have mentioned this before, but I learned this fall that in New York State, you're allowed to operate non-retail redemption centers.
Oh, really?
So a private operator can just accept redemption cans and bottles and pay you for them. And they not only get reimbursed for paying you, it's 5 cents in New York, but they also get a 4.5 cent handling fee from the state. And that, they don't care who sells them. As long as it's got a barcode that scans, they'll.
There's been some noise at the state level for trying to figure out a better, more efficient way, but I don't think it's gone anywhere last time I checked.
I think you're right. And I know that there's still a lot of discussion about what does a college campus do with all of the cans of the beer it sells in its stadium, right? It's not a simple matter. So there's all sorts of discussions going on. But for these kinds of fundraising drives, well, I'll tell you, they just open the cash register and put $20 in your hand. And this is in a storefront. It could have been a shoe store or a dry cleaner, anything. It's just the technology is all there. Anyway, sorry about that. Other matters and commissioner comments? Going once, going twice. I heard some really good stuff about how staff stepped up and did this latest recycling drive. And it's a new thing, and it's good to hear that you're able to get in there and make things go well. Thank you for that. If there's nothing else? Yes, sir.
Yes, I guess I would just make a comment about the sustainability funding and the recycling center signage in particular. I did drive by through there today, and it really could use some additional signing. So I know this has kind of been on the plate for quite some time, but I guess I would just encourage staff and whoever needs to be involved with that to try to get that finalized, and I think it'd be a great help to residents that are going in there and reduce contamination. And it's cheap, so it's something that can easily get done, I think, without too much efforts.
Thank you.
Agree.
Seeing no other hands, without objection, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.